Do I have audio? Yeah, we got audio. Okay. Oh. See here.
Good.
Ah, there it is. Hi, Greg.
How are you feeling, sir?
Hey, thank you, sir. I'm feeling fantastic today. I feel a lot better.
I'm glad.
Thank you. If you want to, you can start sharing. I already
Oh,
started this YouTube.
okay.
If you'd like to start sharing it. Hi, Michelle. How are you doing today? Welcome.
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Yes, welcome.
We are waiting for two more.
Okay, no problem.
Oh,
I thought while you're waiting, because they're trying to come in. I did see them pop in. Oh, here they are. I thought I let them in.
Ruben, if you gotta go, you can call
okay.
me back.
Hello,
Okay.
hello.
All right. Okay.
Hey there.
Hello.
Okay. Hi, Christopher. Hi, Mike.
Hi,
Oh,
everybody.
how you doing?
Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry, Robin. Hey, Robin.
Hey!
And don't leave Robin
Always
out.
good.
I know, right? I can't leave Robin out.
Always good to hear your voice.
Yes. Feels better.
You were getting
Okay.
nervous, Greg.
Don't ever get nervous. Never
I
stop
just
there.
want to let everybody know we are streaming now because I'm trying to get us a quick head start. So you can still have a conversation. Just be careful what you're saying because we are streaming live.
You have a live mic, huh?
Yes, we have a live
All
mic.
right. All right. Well, you guys, I am going into the chat room and disappearing from your screen. So if I need to contact you, usually it's just a Greg, but any messages from anybody that contacts us or whatever, I'll sure pass them on. So you have a great
Okay.
show, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay,
So
But
everybody,
Robin.
open your chat so that if I do need to contact you,
Yep,
I know how to get you.
it's open.
Great.
Okay, good.
Hmm.
All right, bye, Greg. I'll see
Bye,
you later.
Robin. See
thanks,
you.
Rob. Okay. All right, give me a minute to share this around.
Oh, everyone, thank you also for being patient. Zoom was updating.
What
No
happened?
worries.
Okay.
No
Gotcha.
worries.
Yes, yes, I do apologize for that.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
Almost ready for you, Ruby.
Okay, great.
Give you a sec. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Greg, tilt your camera towards your guitar. I think that's right a little bit. Yeah, there you go.
It keeps tilting itself back. Hang on.
Okay, it's okay.
Is that
All
better?
right. Yeah, that'll do it. I think we got it. Yeah. Okay, that's better. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
What do you do to give me more hair?
I know, right? I could do that.
What do you do that?
Okay, here we go. On my cue. And take it, Greg.
Welcome, welcome, everyone. It's 6:15 on Monday night. You're listening to the 220th installment of the Age Out Angels Radio Hour on www.hamiltonradio.net, Channel 2. I'm your host, Greg Rapport. If you're new to the show, I'm the founder and executive director of Age Out Angels. We provide one-to-one mentors to vulnerable youth for the purpose of coordinating the care and services that they need to thrive. We try to help young people avoid some of the horrible pitfalls that they're likely to face when they don't have a proper safety net. This program is brought to you each and every week at the same time, courtesy of Doc G, William Saunders, Ruben Rodriguez, and all the fine people here at Hamilton Radio who allow us to use this airtime. Ruben is on the big board tonight. Robin is producing. We're putting the band back together here. It's so good to have both of you with me. So good to have all of you listening from your cars and in your homes in New Jersey and around the country. Now, please take a moment if you're looking at us on Facebook or YouTube. Hit all the buttons for us. We need you to like and subscribe and share and all the things that are important, because what we're talking about tonight is as relevant in your world as it is anywhere else. This topic applies to every geographic region and it needs to be shared. So please, please, please help us spread the word, help children and their communities. Fabulous news I have for you today about the Bridges to Employment program. If you're following the show, you know how important this is to try to help young people who are in or aging out of foster care get their high school diplomas. And today it has officially been renewed by the state of New Jersey for another year. Yay! And so we're going to have 75 children in our program by the end of next year. We have 2 in college now, I want you to know. And I talk about them as though they were my own because that's how we think of them. You know, if you can go to regular high school, we suggest that you do. We're not competing with high school. There are plenty of things that high school can offer you that we can't, like, you know, a football team and a chess club, after school activities, socialization, that sort of thing. But if it just didn't work out for you, there's no reason that you should be uneducated, because you can earn more money in the course of your life with a high school diploma than without. So if you were ever in foster care, or if you're in it now and you need to get your high school diploma, please contact me, Greg at ageoutangels.org, and we'll show you a different kind of school. We're not school like what you're used to. So just cleanse your mind of what you thought school was when you get in touch with me, because this will be a totally different experience, I promise you. Been thinking about volunteering and volunteerism ever since we started coming out of the pandemic. I will tell you honestly, I used to have like an actual staff of people who were all volunteers before the pandemic, and I don't now, and I'm going to need to sort of try to rebuild that back up again. And that whole process made me think about what volunteering is all about, what it means. And my guests tonight are a combination of one person who is always attracting volunteers and two actual volunteers, so they can talk about their real experiences. And I'll introduce them all to you in just a moment. But I want to tell you about this lady named Susan Dreyfus, who was writing for this is a publication of Stanford University called the Stanford University Innovation Review. So it's a forward-thinking, kind of thing. And she wrote this in 2018. And I thought its relevance was absolutely amazing. She writes that volunteerism, and I didn't even think of this before, has been a unique part of American culture and democracy. This concept of volunteering is a hallmark of American civic life, since our nation's founding. In 1736, Benjamin Franklin founded the first volunteer firehouse. In the 1800s, the rise of the social reform movement around issues like poverty, temperance, women's rights, and the abolition of slavery. Do you notice there were some conservative and some liberal concepts there that are all sort of united under that umbrella? There was centered around issues like poverty, temperance, women's rights. The abolition of slavery mobilized a new generation that had not previously been involved in civic life, including women and young people. This led to the founding of the YMCA, the Salvation Army, the American Red Cross, and the United Way, institutions formed largely to connect this new volunteer force to social services that improve the lives of others. So the basic concept of the .org, right, the nonprofit organization, is to recognize that there's this volunteer, we'll call it labor pool for the moment, and then galvanize it and point it towards a particular issue and structure it so that those man hours can be used efficiently. Social scientists have long noted that volunteerism plays a significantly larger role in American civic life than it does in other countries. In fact, Americans are 15% more likely to volunteer their time than the Dutch. Ah, we beat you, Dutch. Suck it. 21% more likely than the Swiss. And are you ready for this? 32% more likely than the Germans. And yet, despite these statistics, they have begun to raise alarm bells about a decline in U.S. volunteerism. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, volunteerism peaked between 2003 and 2005, when 28.8% of Americans reported having volunteered the previous year. Today, now remember, this was being written in 2018. Today, that number is 25.3%. The decline is consistent across every single age and education group, representing a loss of millions of volunteers. What's more, as the number of volunteers has decreased, the need for them has grown. The nonprofit sector, which relies heavily on volunteers as a strategic resource, has grown by 25% in the last decade. So the organizations ready to galvanize that workforce, has grown by 25%, while 3% the number declined. The nonprofit sector must reverse these trends and do more to increase the engagement of the communities we serve, particularly in the human services sector, which relies heavily on the support of volunteers to fill the gaps in federal, state, and local funding. A University of Pennsylvania study found that community-based human service organizations are the third most reliant on volunteer staffing, behind the religious and education sectors. Now, the impact of volunteering is significant. It not only supports the impact of community-based organizations in the places where they serve, but also connects individuals to one another and to the issues facing their community. It has the power to unite people of different races, ages, religions, and sexes together for a common cause. We saw this phenomenon in the outpouring of volunteerism after the tragedy of the September 11th attacks. when tens of thousands of people from across the nation came together to support victims of terrorism. Just 2.5 weeks after the attacks, the American Red Cross reported processing 15,570 new volunteers from 22,000 offers of assistance. And later, I'm going to tell you about what that current number is, the percentage. I don't know. Do you think it's going up or down since 2018? Let's see. There was a pandemic. Let me say hi to my guests. Wait, something's coming out in the chat. Volunteering definitely helps people to connect to each other and has important connection beyond the help that it does. Yes, indeed, it does. Whoever wrote that. Thank you, Robin. And let's say hi to Michelle Wexler. It's been so long since Task has been on the program. It feels like, forever. But it's nice to have you back, Michelle. Thanks for coming on the program. Unmute and say hi.
Yeah. Hi, thank you for having us. I'm sorry it's been a while, but we're glad to be here.
We're glad to have you. And of course, we also have someone who's not become a stranger to the program. Christopher Kuhn is with us. You've seen Chris on the program before, talking about, Chris, what were we talking about? ERCs.
Yeah, you got it.
Employee retention credits, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
Thank you. Almost threw a blank there and then saved it the last second. Welcome back. Welcome back on the show.
Thanks, Greg.
And also from the same group as Chris is Mike Castañeda. Mike, welcome to the show. They both volunteered.
Glad to be here.
Mike and Chris both volunteered at Task, which is the Trenton area soup kitchen, recently. So I thought it would be nice to have Michelle on, talk a little bit about Task, because you think of Trenton area soup kitchen and you have this vision of a meal line, right? That's what people put in their heads, I think. And I think Task is way more, than a meal line. So Michelle, if you would just take a couple of minutes and let's tell our audience what the Trenton area soup kitchen is and what it does.
Gladly. So Trenton Area Soup Kitchen has been around for 41 years. We really truly stand on the shoulders of an incredible group of volunteers who got together in 1982 when, most of America, but specifically Trenton, New Jersey, were suffering from, the Great Recession. And these volunteers got together, recognized there was a real problem with particularly food insecurity in the Trenton area, and started their own grassroots effort to try to feed people. And, in our first year, we served about 40,000 butter sandwiches in the basement of a church. And since then, we've grown to serve about 415,000 meals or more each year, in addition to providing programs including adult education, case management, creative arts programs, and the provision of basic necessities.
So how do you bridge the gap between the meal that you're serving and all the other programs? Like, do you wait until people have a plate full of food and then basically accost them and say, look at all these other programs we have, quick, give me your name and I'll let you finish eating? How does that work?
Yeah, so Task is unique in the sense that as a soup kitchen, we're founded on the principle that we serve meals, no questions asked. We serve meals at our Escher Street dining room in the North Ward of Trenton, where about a third of our meals are served. And then we also serve right now at more than 30 community meal sites across the area. That includes places you might expect like Hightstown, New Jersey, or Ewing, New Jersey, but also places where hunger is more hidden. Places like Princeton, New Jersey, even into Morrisville, Pennsylvania. So in that no questions asked philosophy, it means that when we serve meals, so Monday through Saturday, we serve lunch from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. And Monday through Thursday, we serve dinner 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. And when folks come in to get a meal, there are no questions. They're invited to come in, sit down, or take their meal to go. And what we say is a meal at Task is, or can be, a life changer. Because once you're there, once you're able to sit down, take a break, have that respite from whatever adversity that you were, facing outside our doors, once you come in, you have the opportunity to really see for yourself what other programs and services are available. And often it starts with someone who might need some basic necessities. So we call that patron services. You might have an opportunity to go up to the window to get some hygiene products or reading glasses. Maybe you need acetaminophen or socks or winter weather gear, right? And then you can get an opportunity to talk to somebody and tell them about what brought you to Task, which might in turn get you into some of the other programs.
So you would engage.
Yeah. And our whole model is about engagement. And I'm sure Chris and Mike can speak to that from their volunteer experience on site. But, it's a very friendly, very welcoming atmosphere. I think we turn that notion of, please, sir, can I have some more on its head. And, there's music playing. We have a floor manager that helps announce, what's going on for the day, what programs and services are available. The volunteers that come in are actually engaging directly with patrons. We serve patrons. We don't ask people to stand in a line and ask for food. We see everybody, and then we let the volunteers know where we need them to go, so that there's a lot of warmth and human interaction that's involved in the meal at task.
So do the volunteers bring the food to the table? Is that how that works?
Yeah, so we have volunteers that help in the kitchen with meal prep, and this is just for food service. We obviously have other volunteer opportunities outside of that, but for food service, we have volunteers that help with the meal prep. We have volunteers, what we call behind the line. So in our Escher Street dining room, we serve meals kind of cafeteria style, where we plate them up fresh, right out of sort of the carafes, and then volunteers will bring them to the tables where people are sitting, help clean up, help take things to the trash. But like I said, it's real direct engagement. We also have volunteers. We have a salad bar on site. Patrons are allowed to come up and get as much salad as they want. So we have volunteers at the salad bar. We have a soup option every day. So we have volunteers manning the area where we serve the soup. We have a coffee and tea service. Sometimes we'll have ice cream. Sometimes we'll have hot chocolate. So there's volunteers kind of scattered all throughout the dining room, really helping to keep the flow of traffic moving, helping to keep the food moving, and then helping to keep everything clean.
Wow. I mean, you think when you hear Trenton Area Soup Kitchen, you think of a soup line, of a basic food line. The picture that you're painting is more like a camp cafeteria. So Christopher, I'll start with you. Is it a food line or a place I can take my wife for date night?
Well, it is amazing how organized it was, and that it's not really just a whole line, because there are runners that bring the food to the tables. So that's the one thing that really I was amazed at, is right when we all came in, and we had about I don't think you were there that night, Michelle, but we had all of us. It was really an eye-opening experience. Right when we got in, we were directed to go get our smocks or whatever, and our masks and everything. We were given lockers. We were told, where to go, and it was really very organized. So it wasn't what I had envisioned, and that was my first time ever volunteering at a soup kitchen. So yes, I envisioned the same thing, this long line, but it wasn't at all. Everybody had different tasks, and it was just, again, amazing. I think all of us, when we were done, just got outside and said, why do we only do this once a year? And the numbers you threw at me, Greg, are really staggering. I can't believe the statistics are really starting to turn upside down like that. It's quite alarming. So I can surmise what that's due to, but let's hope we can reverse that trend. But it was a thrilling experience for me.
Percentage point is 3 million people. That's what happens when you lose a percentage point. How about you, Mike? Were you sort of thinking the same thing everyone else was about, a line going out the door, and whoever's lucky enough to get inside, close the door and keep the heat in?
Yes, exactly. We've all seen images of that on movies and things like that, and a big ladle of slop on the plate, and and move on. It was exactly the opposite of that. The food looked great, smelled great. As Chris said, we were all given our tasks and our stations to work at. Explained to us what was happening and how it was going to happen, and I was very fortunate also to bring one of my sons with me. I think it's important to show them and introduce them to volunteering. And while we have done some volunteering in our town, I thought it was important for them to see some more of that, and keep the flow of the volunteering going with my kids. So yes, and it was very eye-opening, as Chris said, how organized it was, and not only that, but how respectful and appreciative the people receiving the food were. That was just amazing to see.
So good organization matters, huh? Having
Absolutely.
you get in
Yeah.
there and you're pretty much a fish out of water, and if nobody points you to
Yep.
the water, that's important. Well, I just want to say something to the people who are listening right now, because I have a feeling that, knowing my listeners, that some of them are feeling very guilty right now that they don't volunteer enough. And I don't want you to feel that way. So I want to tell you something that I think is important here. In the world of volunteering, journalists break down volunteering into two types. One is the type that we're talking about right now, which is formal volunteering. Involves helping others through organizations, includes activities like supporting COVID testing, other public health efforts, that sort of thing, food banks, Trenton area soup kitchen. There is also this thing called informal helping. And I bet a lot of you do that and don't even realize it. Informal helping involves helping others outside of an organizational context, including doing favors for neighbors, like house sitting, watching each other's children, lending tools, running errands, and other things to lend a hand. Now, the rate of Americans informally helping others actually remained stable between 2019 and 2021. Nearly 51% of Americans, or 124.7 million people, informally helped their neighbors between September 20th and 2021. So you can see the pandemic's influence on that, right? It fits right into the time period where going out and doing something in public, walkathons weren't happening back then, but there was always somebody nearby who needed a hand, right? So that kind of makes sense. Now, I don't know, gentlemen, if you're aware of the credentials of Michelle Wexler, but I looked her up, and goodness gracious, what a significant past. Do you know that this lady has a JD from Temple? She's a lawyer, and she practiced for several years before moving into the nonprofit sector. How do we get this kind of talent in nonprofit? She specializes in strategic planning, fundraising, communications, marketing, board and staff development. She worked as an adjunct lecturer at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania for several years, teaching writing, public speaking, and here's my favorite, the one I'd love to dwell on for a few minutes if we can, Michelle, persuasion. Unmute. You could feel it coming. I could read your lips.
I wrote that bio myself, but it's all true.
So I'll bet persuasion, and interesting, I used to do a lecture called Leading Without Authority, right? For all those people in corporations who had to get work done, but needed to rely on others who they couldn't fire, right? So can you tell us a few things about persuasion that are significant?
Well, in the context of task, we're just in the context of life, right? But, when I taught, one of the core principles is persuasion is the centerpiece of all business activity. And I think we can all agree on that. In my particular field, both when I was a lawyer and working in the nonprofit sector as a fundraiser, same holds true. I'm very fortunate at Task that persuasion is an easy job. Once, especially people come on site, they really have an opportunity to see just, how robust our programs and services are, the impact that we're making. It's not hard to persuade someone who's been on site to understand what kind of quality of work we're providing. But, it's a pleasure to be able to be the person who gets to persuade people, because I have just such immense respect for all of my colleagues and those who are providing those frontline services to our patrons.
And in your case, volunteers, we're talking a lot about the soup kitchen component, but there are other components that you offer where people can volunteer, either because they have a particular skill or because maybe they don't and they'd like to learn,
right,
a particular skill. So now, if I don't want to do food service, what's another department I could serve in as a volunteer?
Absolutely. absolutely. So if you were looking to serve on-site or off-site, it's actually a hybrid program now because of COVID, but we have an adult education program. And in that case, it's really one-on-one tutoring. We work with patrons who have certain educational goals, whatever those might be. They could involve anything from English as a second language to getting their high school equivalency exam, to getting certain credentials they need, in the employment market. We've matched folks up with forklift certifications and CDLs and things like that. But in those respects, you can meet with students in person at Task, or you could meet with students online virtually if it works. We have a laptop loaner program for students who are interested in that option, and work with different internet providers to make sure they can get a consistent connection. And then, the relationship can last as long as it needs to last. So it's really an open-ended thing, but driven mainly by students. Offsite, we also have a number of opportunities. So, for example, one of the things is if you want to serve in our dining room, you must be 13 or older. And there are reasons for that, which I'm happy to go into. But for children, for young teenagers who are tweens, if they really want to get involved, and then for anyone who can't make it on site, because we do serve mainly during the workday, right? So we have a number of service projects that you can get involved in. You can run a donation drive. You can pack meal bags that we distribute to people for times when Task is not open. You can pack hygiene bags that we will help distribute at our patron services window or to the community meal sites we serve. So there's no shortage. Oh, you can wrap utensils. So that's something, that's really easy, especially for the younger kids to do. My daughter's 4th grade class for their Valentine's Day party just got together and wrapped 1,000 utensil packets for us. So while what we serve on site is done in sustainable, reusable plates and silverware, when we put food out either to go or to the community meal sites, we're also able to send utensil packets with that. So there's no shortage of ways you can get involved at Task, whether you want to come in or you want to, do the work from home.
The management of, I'm thinking of the management of that while you're talking, that is like really, really significant, like just having all those balls in the air at the same time.
Yeah, we accept donations as well from the community. So, at 8,000 meals a week, we do purchase quite a bit of food, and we just have no other choice in order to retain the consistency and the quality of the meals. And also, one of the things I think it was Mike spoke to is the quality of the food we serve is prepared by our kitchen staff in-house. It's led by our manager of food programs, who is a very accomplished chef in his own right. He's worked for the Ritz-Carlton for many years. He was on Hell's Kitchen. So he's, really leading a strong culinary team that's helping to put out really good quality of food. But that said, all the donations we receive, we either work away into the meals that we're providing, or we're able to give those out pantry style. And then there's in-kind donations, like I said, hygiene products. People are coming with desserts. We're taking retail, food that maybe is nearing an expiration date. So there's all kinds of things all day long coming to our back door, whether it's individuals or other businesses. And it really is quite an effort. It takes a lot of people to make it work. And so we do have pantry volunteers as well, people who are back, in our pantry, keeping it organized, checking our inventory, helping to receive items and stock them on our shelves. And then they go right back out the door. But it's a big effort, and it takes quite a few people to make it happen.
So let's dwell on the back door for just a moment. If I make a bunch of brownies and bring them into the office and no one wants them, can I bring them over to Task and someone will take them, or are you not allowed to take food in that way?
So we can put a lot of things to use. If you have open containers of food, it is trickier. We certainly do prefer things that are new, that have not been opened. And that goes for anything from clothes, at Christmas time when we ask for toy donations, anything new is truly the best because it's just safer. And we can ensure the quality of it. Mm-hmm. However, we do work with, for example, the Sandy Run Girl Scouts from Yardley, Pennsylvania, are a wonderful group of young women. And every year they get together around the Girl Scouts birthday, and they bake cakes and cupcakes for Task. And so those cupcakes go directly from them to us without any kind of, tampering. They seal them. And then we're able to freeze those items. And we know they're coming, so we're able to distribute them to patrons for their birthdays. We get to celebrate birthdays, or if someone brings in a family and there's kids, we like to be able to have little treats. And then we also just try to provide desserts at every meal. So there are certainly opportunities for people to make things, bake things, and bring them in. We just try to kind of coordinate that up front so we know what we're getting and we can manage that accordingly.
Yeah, like everything else. I mean, you're dealing with numbers that are big enough that management is key, or else the whole thing doesn't work. Now, Chris and Mike, did you guys have basically the same job? Were you working like in the same line, or did you have two different jobs? Chris, start with you.
Yeah, we had two different jobs. So I was assigned behind the food to kind of get each plate ready, and it was just kind of like a whole assembly line. I did a bread and a dessert, and somebody next to me did the beans, and then somebody next to that did the meat or something like that. But we always kept plates going, whether people were and again, it was organized again because there were to-go bags that we had a line we had to put the food on, or there were people who were staying in the show in the area that we put the food on. So I did food, and I was looking at Mike out there. I think he was giving gifts away to kids or something like that. Mike, what were you doing? It looked great.
I was at the dessert table / snack bag table.
Snack bags, that's right.
Yeah. So and my son was a runner, so he was bringing the trays of food out to the tables where the people were sitting. And Michelle, you mentioned outside volunteers. I noticed all the snack bags, paper lunch bag, were all decorated. And I was told that some elementary school kids had decorated them all. So that was nice to see as well.
Now, you said, Chris, that you were doing what, bread and dessert?
Yeah, no, I was on dessert.
Yeah, I was behind doing bread and I think there was a dessert for people that were staying, I guess. Yeah.
So you could say you were a bread specialist by the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the time the thing was over, and you're ready to move on to beans, I would think.
Yeah.
At this point.
What was also great was just people who had volunteered there for many years or had done it. They were also just very welcoming of new people like us who had been there for the first time. Yeah. Naturally, I'm sure they want to see us come back. And like I said, it didn't take us long to agree on that.
Yeah, sounds like there's a spirit in there.
Yeah.
That it's probably kind of hard to describe on the radio. But,
well, it is. And for me, it's especially heartwarming because I lived in Robbinsville for 27 years. It took me to move to Massapequa, New York on Long Island to come back and volunteer in Trenton.
That's something. Yeah, you came a long way to do that. And Mike, you brought your son?
I brought my son. He's 20 years old. And he was also impressed and touched by the people that he was serving.
Now, when you go back, because the plan now is that you're going to go back, and you're hooked, basically, right?
Correct.
When you go back, can you say, hey, next time I really want to do mashed potatoes? Like, did you look at something and covet it? I think is what I'm saying.
Well, it's interesting, Mike and Greg and Michelle, because today is the deadline for our members to respond for our next volunteering, which is April 20th. So we're looking to come in again on the 20th of April because we want to do it once a quarter. We don't just want to do it once a year. And I'm sure you need us more than once a quarter based on those numbers. But I think the rest of the group would also be interested in some of the other things you mentioned, Michelle, as far as other ways that we can help as well.
And I think probably people don't realize the scope of what you're doing. Michelle, did you say 8,000 meals a week? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so it's actually closer probably to 8,500 right now because we're in the process of adding a new community meal site that does after school programs. But yes, we serve about a third of our meals at Escher Street. And then, like I said, the rest go out to community meal sites. Those sites are both public and private. So some of them are open to community members. They include church groups. They include like YMCAs and different kinds of family programs. And then there are some that are after school programs. We've served at schools. So it just kind of runs the gamut. Behavioral health centers. We have right now an agreement with the city of Trenton to provide meals to 11 low-income senior sites. that really suffered when COVID began because those folks were amongst the most vulnerable and couldn't get to their normal, places where they could get food. So we were able to deliver directly there. We also work with the Muslim Center of Greater Princeton has a hunger van, so they do pickups and they distribute to several sites as well. So there's a lot of places that we make food for, and it's pretty impressive to see, how we've been able to scale as a result of COVID. But to your point, it requires a lot of volunteer help to make that happen. And I'm really, really pleased that you've had such a, rewarding and meaningful experience that it makes you want to come back. I will absolutely relay that to my colleagues, and they will be jazzed about that. So thank you. I'm so glad.
Absolutely. Earlier, I made a comment that you were making it sound more like a camp cafeteria, but at 8,000 meals a week, the biggest camp cafeteria serves probably maybe 4,000 meals a week. So what's the capacity of your dining room?
So the dining room can handle about 300 to 350 people at a time. For lunch, things have changed dramatically in 2023. We've actually seen quite a surge. We were expecting it. Right now, we can see up to 550 people at lunchtime. So that does require quite a bit of coordination and making sure the flow of traffic keeps moving. I think you guys were there for dinner right before the holidays, right?
Yeah,
and the weather,
it was right before, and the weather was miserable, so we really had a low attended night. We want to see it when it's rocking and rolling, but it was really low attended,
Yeah, so dinner time has often a little bit slower. It's just the way it works, but it's good and important for us to be open. Lunchtime is obviously when we see the most activity, but to your point, Greg, on Mondays we have a music program. So we have the band meeting in one of the conference rooms. Everybody's jamming. They let me sing with them sometimes. I'm not that good, but there's a lot of talent. So yeah, today, in the midst of lunch service, you've got someone playing a banjo in the hallway and a group writing a song in our conference room. And then Tuesdays we do art, visual art. So folks can come in any medium they choose. We've got paint, all different kinds of paints, pastels, colored pencils, like anything you want, sculpting and all that's going on. And then Thursdays we have a creative writing program. So folks get together to, express either what they're going through or what they're feeling through writing. And the third Monday of every month we have an open mic night. So I had to miss it today to get situated here, but at dinner time, we invite anybody who wants to share their creative expression. So it can be a camp some days. It does have that vibe, but it's really, I think that's what's so important. We do provide, in addition to food, in addition to, really important services like case management and job search and things that, really put someone on the path to self-sufficiency. The sense of community that we build is just as important, and we're really nourishing, in my mind, the mind, the body, and the soul, and that's really an important part of what makes task impactful.
That's the wonderful ancient Greek philosophy. What you just said is like 5,000 years old. The mind.
Yeah, we didn't invent it. We just do it well.
That's great. Well, for those of you out there who are thinking about volunteering, I want you to know that studies have also long touted the mental health benefits of volunteering, including feeling more socially connected, warding off loneliness and depression, and lending a greater sense of purpose to life. For those who contribute their time, and more recent studies have begun to examine the physical health benefits of volunteering. New research from Carnegie Mellon University, for example, notes older adults who volunteer for at least 200 hours per year decrease their risk of hypertension or high blood pressure by 40%. We keep doing this, Chris and Mike. We'll live forever, I promise you. The study suggests that working as a volunteer could be a non-pharmaceutical option to reducing cardiovascular disease caused by hypertension, which affects nearly 65 million Americans and is the leading cause of death. Didn't think when we started the show today that volunteering could actually save your life. Did you? Nobody.
Not at all.
Nobody was coming in here thinking of that. Yeah. So, where to go from here, Michelle? What Are things going to expand there, or because you're adding more and more things all the time? Let me ask you this question specifically. Lots of times, because the things that you're describing, like getting a high school diploma and life achievements, require three critical pieces of identification, right? You got to have an original birth certificate with a raised seal, and you have to have an original social security card, right? And some form of state issued photo ID, driver's license, a county card, if you don't drive a car, something like that. What do you do when people come to you and don't have those three things? Because I tell you, I deal with this every day, and they are the holy three in the world of documents.
Wow, Greg. So in addition to now being my most persuasive volunteer recruiter, you are also touching on one of the more important things we do that I think a lot of people aren't totally aware of. And it's because it's complicated, but we are actually the leading agency in Mercer County that helps people get identification. We have a grant through the County of Mercer to do this work, and we have a full-time ID specialist and a part-time assistant through that grant. And it has been a program that has grown and has, both grown in its service and grown in its impact. But what you touch on is the fact that getting identification is a very complicated, circuitous process. I often call it a vicious cycle because often you need identification to be able to get identification. But without identification, it is very difficult to get housing, to have a bank account, to hold a job, among countless other things. And again, in our mission, obviously the central focus is feeding people, but in order to enhance quality of life, in order to put someone on the path to self-sufficiency, you absolutely have to have identification to make that happen. Whether it's a driver's license, a county ID, or even for undocumented folks, there is some version of identification that you can have that at least allows you certain, privileges in the community. So, we have a lot of relationships with a lot of different agencies to help people find the right documentation that they need. We do a lot of advocacy in this space. We recently testified to the state assembly on this issue because recently among the 6 points of identification required to get identification, you needed a social security card. And as you can imagine, if you're transient or unsheltered, in cases illiterate, born to parents who never, filed or misfiled the original paperwork, if you were born out of state, in my case, I was born out of country. I can't begin to tell you how difficult it is to get some of the paperwork. And so, a social security card is one of the most difficult things for someone to maintain. So we worked with the state assembly, we worked with Assemblyman Dan Benson, and he was a real advocate on our behalf to be able to accept other documentation in lieu of the social security card to make it a little bit easier for folks. So if they have paperwork like Medicare, things that cite, part of the social security number, and that can be validated, which is much easier than getting your hands on the card itself. Now the state will accept some of that alternative documentation, in lieu of the actual social security card. But nonetheless, it's a complicated process. It requires someone who can manage timelines, who can receive all of this documentation, who can keep it all, and then who can bring it, and make the appointments that you need. You need transportation to get to a lot of these appointments. Again, particularly during COVID, hours of operation are different. The places that will process this documentation, are not always in the most convenient locations. You need a login, you need internet access just to get the appointment. So it is a complicated process, and that's why we have people specifically dedicated to helping folks do that.
That is so outstanding. I just love the catch-22 of it. Like, you can get this if you have that, but if you can get that if you have this. But if you don't have that, you can't get either one.
Yeah.
To get this. That's it. We just fall into that trap all the time. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to send everyone to you. Right, okay.
Listen, we're being busy for us is rewarding because the more folks who come to us, the more folks we can help. And like I said, it's a complicated process.
Well, am I starting to get the impression, and Mike, you may have been working this part of the operation, that people go there and they'll eat, but on the way out, they can grab a bag, with some snacks for later or something? Is that kind of how that worked?
Yeah, so like Chris said, he was working at the food counter where they were eating the hot food in-house, but he also had to prepare to-go meals. So you could just take your meal and go with you. And then, yes, after they ate or after they grabbed their to-go meal, they would come by our table and there would be some more desserts and there would be the snack bags that the kids had previously decorated, and in there was, more desserts, more like yogurts and stuff like that, apples or whatever in those bags for them to take with them as well.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting you to talk about a salad bar and stuff like that, Michelle. Lots of times the vision that we get of these meals are what we think of. We think of them as scout meals, heavy carbs, heavy carbs, heavy fat, because they need the calories. They got to get the calories.
Yeah, so we work with dietitians. March happens to be National Nutrition Month. So, apropos that we'd be talking about this, but we work with dietitians to make sure that the calorie content of any given meal is enough to sustain somebody if it's their only meal for the day. On the flip side, though, we always make sure that we have a serving of vegetables on every plate. Every plate includes a lean protein of some kind, and we really try to maintain a variety. So it could be pork, it could be fish, it could be, chili. But we make sure that every plate contains that. Then we'll have a starch, which is often where people can get some more of that dense caloric content. But we do try even there, if it's rice, to mix in brown rice. We do our best to make sure that we give people the calorie content they need, but also the nutritional content that they need to thrive. And a salad bar is incredibly popular. So it's one of the things that, I know Chris and Mike, you weren't there on the busiest of evenings, but it's something that almost every patron visits. And like I said, they can go up more than once, and many, many do.
Yeah, our guys, Bob Coyle and Frank Gallagher, were working the salad bar, and they kept busy even though it was lightly attended. They kept going.
And the thing about it that's important too is it's an opportunity for someone to exercise choice. So they can't choose every day what we serve. The main meal, again, at that rate and that volume has to be, standard. But when you are, living in poverty, when you are food insecure, you don't often have a lot of opportunity to exercise choice. And so the salad bar is one of those times where you can customize it any way you want. And we put together, chickpea salads and different things, as well as just your normal salad bar offerings. But it's a true opportunity to be able to do something that's, really what you want, and that's rare.
Absolutely. And the fact that they get a little snack to go home with too, because, we all get hungry a little while after dinner. Why should there be no food? I mean, just when you say things like, if that's their only meal of the day, that really makes your heart, want to reach out, I think, when you hear that. So Michelle, a question just came in the chat. Can people volunteer for one time, or do you need a longer commitment? I want you to explain the process to volunteer for tasks, because it's easy enough, and anyone listening in this area could just do it. You could just go online and volunteer now. So you go ahead and say that.
Yeah, so our website is our greatest resource and probably the place where you can find the most amount of information. It's www.trentonsoupkitchen.org. There's a tab across the top that says Get Involved, and that will give you information about volunteering for meal service, about volunteering for tutoring. It will also give you the list of service projects that we suggest if you're interested in doing something offsite, as well as our wish list. So we have one that we kind of keep up all year round in case you're either running a donation drive or you're just thinking to yourself, well, while I'm out at Target, I'll just pick up a couple extra things. Our Facebook and our Instagram also have seasonal wish lists, so you can follow us there at Task Soup Kitchen. And so that is, right now we have a spring wish list up. It includes things like rain ponchos, seasonal items that we need right now. But when you go to our website, if you're interested in volunteering for meal service, you can sign up right there. We have a real-time calendar that shows you what shifts are available, how many people are needed for each shift, and you can just go right in and sign up. One-time volunteers are welcome. There's absolutely no commitment to do anything additional. Although we certainly hope that you have a rewarding enough experience that you want to come back. But there's no need to commit to more than 1 day at a time. And if you want to sign up for a group, you can do that right there as well.
Absolutely. So go to the website, people. That was TrentonSoupKitchen.org, right? Go to the website, and I think you'll kind of be amazed. And if you're sort of the kind of person who's, you know, more socially inclined, then you can participate in the kitchen and be shoulder to shoulder with the other people. If you're still maybe a little resident about hanging out in groups, you know, COVID is still out there lurking, behind every corner. So if you're feeling that way and you're not feeling so social, there are other jobs that you can do, that you can volunteer for, or just maybe make a donation, so that you can participate in this. 8,000 meals a week. This is just an amazing organization. And you can see from Christopher and Mike that they just went in there once and they're hooked on it. I think that's such a beautiful thing. And you can do this if you live in our area, if you live in whatever area you live. Trust me, there's an organization that needs your help. If you just Google nonprofits in my area, I'll bet you'll get a list of 350 different organizations that all could use your help. So we're sort of running out of time. I wanted to sort of conclude that article by Susan Dreyfus in the Stanford University Innovation Review about the tremendous impact that volunteerism has on American society, on both the people providing the services and the people receiving them. It's amazing too when you start to think about the gift that you get by volunteering. These altruistic interactions also often serve a broader purpose. They bond together neighbors and communities in a common cause and enable us to see and appreciate each other's humanity. When we recognize the humanity in each other, we lay the foundations of understanding, empathy, and compassion. These then form the building blocks of a healthy civil society in which citizens are more likely to focus on what unites us than what divides us. For these reasons, I firmly believe that everyone in the public and nonprofit sectors has a role to play in fostering volunteerism, and that engagement can pay dividends for all. Thanks so much to my guests tonight, Michelle Wexler, Christopher Kuhn, and Mike Castañeda. Thanks to our producer, Robin, to our engineer, Ruben. Music provided by Mozart. I don't know why he works for us. He must need the money. Join me again, please, next week, same time. Let's do it again. Stay safe, everyone. And until next week, let's make this week the best week ever. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Greg.
Good night.
Thank you,
so
everyone.
much.
Good night.